20 years in this business. I spent a lot of time just trying to figure out how I can separate myself from the rest. That's what I think about every single day. How I can be different, how I can make an impact that's true to me, so I can serve the people around me the way I feel that's best for them. I was in real estate. I had asked a family member if they wanted to buy a house for me, and they didn't, right? And they ended up buying a house and listing a house with somebody else. And I was like in tears. I was like, why? Why not me? I was so upset. I was telling Izzy at happy hour yesterday, I was like, that just made me just fired up. I was just like, okay, F this, I'm gonna show you that I'm gonna be the best of the best, you know? I was like, okay, what do I need to do? Like, that's my first thing. It's like, what do I need to do? I was like, okay, I need a script. I need like someone to teach me how to say things, right? Like script practice. I need to find more buyers and sellers on my own. How do I do that? I started this program with Mike Berry, who's Tom Ferry's father back then. And Mike Berry was a big deal, right? And he had this script, and I was reading it like I was reading the Bible, you know, like, hi, this is Ty. How are you today? May I ask you a question? You know, like you're just repeating it. And I was like, this sounds like a robotic, you know, this is lame. I was just like, well, I don't make any money, and the people who read this verbatim makes calls and makes millions, so who am I to judge, right? So I just started picking up the phone, and it's called the expireds for sale by owner. I just, every day, me and my friend Mary, we were accountability, right? We're like, okay, we come in the office at 9 o'clock. If you're late, you put 20 bucks in my jar. If I'm late, I put 20 bucks in your jar. And we're like, okay, it's a deal. So we go in the office when I started at John O. Scott in Kent. And so we go in, and you know, I'm always putting 20 bucks in hers, and she's putting 20 bucks in mine, but it made us get there, and we start pounding the phones. And the first week of my call, I called this guy, and his name's Andre, one of my really good friends. I was like, Andre, 2 of your new construction expired yesterday, did you know? He was like, yeah, you and everybody else, like, stop calling me. And I was like, hey, just give me 5 minutes. I'm gonna come over, I'm gonna tell you how I'm gonna sell your house. If you don't like me, you can fire me in 5 days. Deal? And he was like, 5 days? That's all you need? And I was like, yeah, 5 days. Just give me 5 days. I was like, okay, come over. So I drive over to his house, and he was like, he's Russian, right? So like wearing a robe, and his wife was wearing a robe. They had a bottle of Grey Goose in their hand, 2 shots. I was like, hey, I'm gonna nail this one for sure, right? And he was like, you take that shot, I'll give you the listing. I didn't say anything. I was like, I'm gonna take the shot. So I took the shot, got the listing. He was like, you're so sweet, I'm not gonna give you 5 days, I'm gonna give you 25 days. And I was like, okay, game on. So I took that listing. It was 2 new construction, you guys, like just on a phone call. It was in Kent, right? Because my office was in Kent back then at the John L. Scott with some of my girls here. So the 2 listing in Kent, I took it, and I knew exactly what would need to be done. The pictures were blurry, the school was wrong, it wasn't presented right, it just needed to be repackaged. And that's when I had that spark of how do I create an amazing listing presentation, a listing package that's gonna blow everybody away. So that was kind of like the first journey of getting the listing. I sold both of those, by the way. Then after I sold both of those, he was like, I want you to help me buy a condo for my son in Bellevue. Sold him that, became best friends with his wife, Natasha. We're still really good friends off of a cold call. And we've been friends for over 20 years. And sadly, Andre passed away a few years ago, and you know, and I reconnected with her. But those relationships I would have never found if I didn't pick up the phone. You just have to pick up the phone and turn those rocks. If you don't, you'll never know what's on the bottom of those rocks, right? So that's kind of the beginning of my journey. I have a passion for creating an amazing listing presentation. That's kind of like my jam. I never really loved the buying process. Who likes to drive buyers around all day long? Nobody?
I do.
Okay, except for Johanna. Well, I have little babies at home, so I'd rather not. That was kind of like my thought process of it, and I was in real estate for, gosh, 11 years, guys. I was in it and I was winging it, just winging it, right? I got to the point where by myself, I was closing over 40 transactions. And I hit a lid at my office, and so that's when I went over to Keller Williams to learn how to build a team. I was at Keller Williams. I'm gonna tell you the story about how I created this listing presentation, and I'll pass it around to you guys so you kind of see. It's all in here, but this is what I bring to my listing presentation. I have the property address. I write it in red so that I don't F up and write someone else's address on here. You know, so I write the property address, and then I write and I write the name of the individual on the listing. So it's tailored to them. They think that I spent like 5 days putting this together, but literally it takes me 5 minutes because it's already made, right? The book is written, and you just have to adjust the little pieces inside to make it match them. That's the key, that's the secret, right? So I have this, and I just kind of go through the listing presentation with them, right? It's like a very thought out, it's like a story of how I'm going to get them top dollars for their house. And so I'm gonna go over my technique with you guys and kind of help you with that. But a lot of times I have all this already, I print it out, and I have this machine at home. So there's just a machine, right? You put it in and you punch the holes, and then these twirlies, you buy them and then you twist them on. So if you don't have this machine, you should have one at home. It's a game changer. So I buy it on Amazon. The machine is like 40 bucks. And then these are, I buy 1,000 of these, and then the back part. So all together, it's like 20 bucks or whatever. So I'll pass this around later. But okay, so the journey when I was at Keller Williams, right? I was like obsessed of figuring out how to create an amazing listing presentation. And who here has a listing presentation, like a booklet like this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so see, there's nobody out there that's gonna teach you how to do this. There's nobody. I purchased online listing presentation from Keeping Curtain Matters or something like that. That was garbage. I don't know, I watched all these webinars and nothing like really spoke to me and like made me like excited about it. And then so I stalk real estate agents that are like higher level than me, people who kind of make me excited about real estate, who I want to be in the future, or is a rule breaker, anomaly in real estate. So I met this lady, I was following her from Keller Williams. Her name is Elizabeth Doe. Okay, if you don't follow her, you should follow her. She's amazing. She has this crazy team. She puts on like carnivals for the entire town. That's how crazy this lady is, right? And so I was following her, and then she posted that she was teaching a listing presentation class in LA. And I was like, whoa. And she sells over 300 properties a year off of listings alone. Okay, so I was like, wow, this is amazing. So my brother Steven at the time was working with me. He was like my assistant and my nanny, because I needed someone to take care of my kids. Yeah, so like he did work for me, and when I had an appointment, he'd drive to my house, pick up the kids for me so that I could work, right? And I told him, I was like, you help me out, I'm gonna buy you a car. And he was like, okay, I'm gonna help you out. And I bought him a car. Anyway, so he still has that car. So I messaged Elizabeth, and I was like, Elizabeth, can I fly in and sit in your class? She was like, you fly in for my class? And I was like, yeah, I want to fly in. I want to know how you're selling 300 something houses a year. This is crazy. So I fly into her class like this. There's only like 9 people in her class. And she was like, Ty flew in from Seattle to be in here, and nobody in my office is here. I mean, you know, they're not taking advantage of someone who has paved the way already for you, right? Anyway, so Izzy's here from Miami. Say hi, Izzy. Flew all the way in just to be here. Appreciate it. I fly in, my brother's sitting there, I'm sitting there, and she's going through this listing presentation. And I said, take a picture of every single slide. Like every single slide. And I said, when we go back, that's your only job, is to recreate that. And then we're going to flip it and adjust it so it looks like something that is true to me. And I've been playing with it and adding things, taking things out. You know, during COVID, I took a lot of the, like, we sent out postcard stuff, you know, just like whatever the market is, I adjusted a lot of it to it. But I'm pretty proud of it. I love it. Even if I'm going to a listing appointment that is a good friend or a family, I still make them sit down and I go through the listing presentation with them. Because a lot of times you guys are going out there and you're like, oh, that's family, so it's okay. It's in the bag. Like, I don't need to prove to them that I'm good because they already know. But the true part of the missing piece that you guys are not connecting is if you sit them down and you treat them like a business partner and you lay out your listing presentation to them, they're gonna be so pleased or so impressed of what you do that they're gonna tell their friends how amazing you are. Not just for them, but for everybody. And that's how you create a referral business. You sit down and you go through it with them. I mean, I went through it with my friend. She was like, it was in the bag, right? But I still created a listing presentation. I sat down with her, went through it with her, and she was like, well, Ty, I was gonna let you list my house, and I'm gonna have my cousin help me buy because she's my cousin. You know, I want her in the deal. And I was like, here's why you need to work with me. My team and I are gonna coordinate the entire closing. For me to communicate to someone who's not part of the transaction is gonna be really hard because we're gonna do a rent back. And I'm gonna tell you all the reason why we should keep that together here. And I got both deals. And she referred me everybody else after that because of the listing presentation. The presentation is a resemblance of you, right? Like, it shows that you're a professional. So that's kind of my story of how it got started. I'm gonna go over, it's really quick, it's about like 25 or 30 pages. And you guys can ask questions along the way. So the listing presentation, I generally, like I said, I write their address and their name right here, and then my information. I hardly ever bring my business card. I have a mission statement that I worked on. I paid someone to help me kind of write it out. I had a professional person kind of help me sit down and write my mission statement in there, kind of create your own. So this is me, over 20 years of experience backing you up during the sale of your property. The reason why I have this screenshot of the Zillow, because everybody's on Zillow, right? I don't want them to be on Redfin, so I'm not gonna take a snapshot of Redfin app, right? But I have this strategically to let them know that no matter where their house is at, I can handle it. Because a lot of people are like, are you a local real estate agent? Do you know my area? How are you gonna sell my area if you don't know my area? So the goal here is to show them that I've sold over 382 homes. And I've sold everywhere. So really it's all about the marketing. It's really about understanding their house, which is their masterpiece, and in creating a presentation around their masterpiece. What do they love about their house? How can I push that message out for them to tell their story? Every house has a story, right? You go in a house, some houses like, oh my God, I'm gonna leave right now. Like the energy is bad, or like some house you go in, you're like, oh my gosh, this is just a spectacular property. This is how we're gonna showcase it. Not every house is the same. So this is the reason why I have this page on here. The home selling process. So what we do is I sit down with them and I ask them, is this the first house you've sold? Is this the second house, third house? To get an idea of how experienced they are. Once you know, then you can move fast or slow. And so usually I tell them in the beginning, I'm gonna do a market analysis on your property. And this is just a general idea. I'm gonna just do a very general analysis of the area. Now that I'm in your house and we're gonna walk it and you tell me everything about your house, I'm gonna come back and give you a thorough market valuation. So a market analysis is just a general. Market valuation, I'm gonna deep dive now that I've seen your house. So that's the way I get in the door. Yeah, great, I could tell you a little bit about what your house is worth, but not until I really get in, I'm gonna give you a real true value of your property, right? An appraiser can't give you a true appraisal if you can't walk into your house. I'm the same way. And then my transaction coordinator and my team, They're gonna help you with the listing paperwork, the input, opening title. We're gonna book the photos, the staging if you need it, book the contractors, online listing, push marketing, flyers, virtual tour. We go live and just kind of walk them through. And then when you get an offer, what happens in these steps? They want you to lead them. So if you don't have a picture of what that looks like, you're not doing your service. You should not deserve that check. They're paying you. You've got to lay that out. Shelby, I met Shelby thanks to Eric right over here. Eric and I and Francis, we met Eric, has it been 2 years?
No, 1 year.
Oh my gosh, okay, this guy's a beast. He's grown so fast in 1 year. He has now built the short-term rental, Facebook, corporate rental, right?
Yeah.
Such a beast in this business. But you know, this is why I think Julie said collaboration is the new currency. My business elevated and I'm empowered to do more because now I have the right players in place. You know how sometimes you don't have the right people in place, the right tools, and you don't feel empowered? You feel like, okay, I gotta step back because I don't have it dialed down. But now, gosh, you guys, you better wait next year. It's gonna be bananas. So Shelby is a licensed real estate transaction coordinator with EXP. She understands all of the forms. She is a beast. She calls my client at 8 o'clock like, hey, can you build this document out as fires tomorrow? She's just amazing. I've never had a TC like her. And just recently I added someone else to our team, and that's Emily. Emily is a creative writer for us. That's gonna take our listing to a whole new level. So she's gonna work with the seller and captivate the audience of the way she's gonna market the house. Cause I'm not a great writer, so I'm just gonna pay someone to do it. And I always had that seed in my head that I wanted a creative writer. I could not find that person. But now that I have her, guys, I just put on a listing and she wrote this whole paragraph. Oh, I felt like I wanted to buy the house too. You know, it was so good. You know how like you're on Groupon? Who has Groupon? Who does Groupon still? You know how they're writing like, oh, come to this place and it's like one of a kind. Like, I mean, just the way they write it, it makes you just want to buy the coupon. That's her. She's just amazing. And it takes a lot off your shoulders because you know how you're writing a marketing remark and you didn't write something right, the square footage is a little bit off by 1, or you forgot a period or ed at the end, or you said something that wasn't correct. What she does is she writes it, then she emails it to the client. It's like, this is what I've written and painted this picture for the house. How do you like it? Would you like anything else changed? And then she emails it back to me. They proofed it. They absolutely love it. Ty, it's ready to go. I get it back before midnight on a Tuesday because my listing always comes up on a Wednesday. So I get it back. I wake up usually on a listing day, Wednesdays. I usually wake up around 4 o'clock in the morning. Because 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock is when I launch my listings. Because people are sleeping. When they wake up, the listing's there for them. And they're planning their week for the open house on a Saturday and a Sunday. So everything is all ready to go. Listing remark, cut, paste, boom, done. How many of you put up a listing and you're stressed the F out? Like, oh my God, is everything there? Is the Form 17 there? Is the legal there? You know, like, is everything there? Did they sign all the documents? Is the Northwest MLS gonna ding me because I didn't upload something, you know? But now with the right people in place, guys, it's like amazing. And I had her write down like everything that she does for the client. So I go over like, as you can see, this is why part of my commission goes to the expertise to showcase your house right. You know, if they ever ask about commission. We talk a little bit about the benefit of pre-inspection. I'm big on that. Every listing we do, our goal is to do a pre-inspection every single time If they don't want it, if they agree to it, we have an addendum that they sign that they agree to pre-inspection, I'll pay for it. Because it's less stress for me, less stress for them, less stress for the buyers. I'm in it to win, and I'm willing to gamble. So I don't mind forking out another $400, $500 for it, because I believe in the property. So kind of just going over all that. Professional remodeling guidance. So you have someone like me that have contractors that I've worked with over the course of 20 years of my career. No one is gonna overcharge you on my watch. Does that make sense? And then they all nod. Yeah. So if you use and you work with me, I'm gonna save you right off the bat, all the way in the beginning. And this was a rental that one of my clients referred me. Her mom was sick, so they didn't want to rent it out anymore. And literally, guys, I just went in and just painted the house. And then we put in new vinyl flooring because it was a rental, right? I didn't want to do too much to it. We literally just repainted the whole house and did the flooring. And then I got it staged. Right? That's simple. But someone who's not experienced may want them to do a lot more than they need to. You have someone with experience to help you, guide you through the process. And so basically you're just going and adding value every page you go through. You're just adding value. Before and after. This is a house in Bellevue. I'm gonna tell you this story about this house. This is a fun story. So we get this referral for this house in Bellevue. And this guy, he's a Microsoft executive in Bellevue. He blogs on his Facebook. He needs an agent to sell his house, right? And then like his whole entire page blows up. Everybody and their mom can sell a house in Bellevue, right? And then this guy was like, Ty, I know the guy. So I'm going to put you right in front. So he decided to interview 8 agents on the east side, and I was one of them. So we went in and we're just going through the listing presentation. For that process of going through the listing presentation, I was going through the discovery, right? I'm peeling off layers of who he is. I'm asking him why he's moving. I asked him why he bought this house, what made him fall in love with this house. I'm just peeling layers off and building that relationship. And he was like, funny story, Ty, this house, we're Buddhist, and we found out when we came here that there's 2 stones in the front, and those stones were blessed in Asia and brought in for good luck to this house. And there was a Buddhist guy that lived here, and he was very famous, and he did a lot of public speaking, and he lived here, and he would bless this house. And everybody who comes in says the energy and the feng shui of the house is amazing. Like you cannot not be successful living in this house. So we were kind of like speaking the same language because I get his culture. And so he just told me about his journey of, they couldn't have kids. They prayed a lot. They had a meditation room. They prayed a lot to be able to have kids, and they end up having kids in this house. So it was a really sentimental piece to them. It was their story. You're getting their story, right? You're peeling layers to create a story. Anyway, so he was like, Ty, thank you for your time. I am interviewing 8 agents. We will let you know who we decide to. He said, but I have one last question for you. I'm gonna ask everybody this, and I have one question for you. What are you gonna do different to my house than everybody else? What are you gonna do differently? When someone says, why should I buy this house? What are you gonna say? Right? Okay, everybody's like, oh shit. What should I say, right? So I took a pause and I said, here's what I'm gonna tell them. I'm going to register and make sure I know every single agent that comes into your house, right? The key box. And I'm gonna monitor the shit out of that box for you, right? And I'm gonna monitor that box, and everybody who walks through that house that is Chinese, Vietnamese, I'm not trying to be racist, right? But like Chinese, Vietnamese, like people with our culture that may understand the value of feng shui, that may understand value of a prayer room that you have, and may understand that there is an energy about this house, and the house was been blessed by a monk, right? That I'm gonna pass that on message to them. I'm gonna tell your story to every single person I know that has shown this property. And I promise you that's what I'm gonna do, because I'm passionate about it. And I believe that too. I grew up in a house where when we moved in, it was a blessing because everybody who rented the basement of our house came out successful. Like, I believe that, right? And he was like, very impressive, right? So I left, and so I left the house, and then a week goes by, I haven't heard from him and his wife. That morning I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a little meditation. I'm gonna quiet my space, I'm gonna do a meditation, I'm gonna think about them, and I'm gonna manifest that I'm going to get that listing. And so I get in my car and I drive my daughter to school at Newport. I drop her off, and this is during COVID. I had my mask, she had, my daughter had her mask, and like walking her, right? Walk my daughter to the class, walk out, and from the front door, it was the seller walking right at me. And I took down my mask, I was like, Z, is that you? And she's like, Ty? Like, right in front of me. And she was like, your daughter goes here? Your kid goes here? I was like, yeah. She's been going here for 2 years. We've never seen each other for 2 years, right? We've never seen each other. And I was like, oh my God, I was just thinking about you, wondering what's going on. And she was like, oh my gosh, Ty, you and this other agent are my final two that I'm trying to figure out. I'd rather have you, but this other agent said that she'd pay for the staging. And I was like, that's it? For a $2.6 million listing, right? I was like, Lee, I'll pay for your staging. I was like, I'm gonna come over, we're gonna sign the listing, I'm gonna do it. I'll pay for your staging. And she was like, and you'll do it for less than 3%? And I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, why don't we do this? Here's the deal. I know 2.6 is your dream number, right? And you wanted to list it at 2.3. If I get you 2.6, you'll pay me 3% commission. And I'll still cover the staging. And she's like, you're serious, you can get 2.6. No one's gotten 2.6 in this community. And I was like, I'm gonna get you 2.6. I got her 2.6. And closed the deal at 3%. And that's the house. Yeah. Great story, great client of mine now. Manifesting and really focusing on what you want, you'll get it. Just like this listing presentation, right? I manifested it. I told Izzy I'm a digger, not a gold digger, but a goal, right? Not gold, but gold digger. And when I have a goal, you guys, I am obsessed. Like, I'm just obsessed. I don't even question. I'm like, I'm just gonna go for it. And then we talk about virtual staging. Sometimes people have budgets, right? So if they're not willing to pay $3,000 for a staging, we do virtual staging. This is a condo in Capitol Hill. Investor was renting out and had to sell it. So I went in and I just did virtual staging. It sold really fast. And that's also an option if they didn't want to buy it. And usually what I'll do is I'll put a little easel of like the staging part in the house in case they forget, like, oh my God, this is not what I thought. But it gives them like a potential what they could do to it. Landscaping, we offer landscaping. We have great contractors that do landscaping. So let them know the listing process with us is very seamless. We have everybody and anybody to do what they need to do to help you. Yep.
So I know that dependent, you'll pay for staging, but also like landscaping and any of these other services.
No, I don't pay for any of that. Yeah. The only thing I'll pay for is staging, and the way I set up the staging is, yes, I will pay for staging. What you do is I need you to pay for it up front. I'm gonna have you pay it up front. We're gonna sign a contract that when we close, I'm gonna credit that back to you. Because what happened is when I pay for your staging, I become liable for the furniture in your house. And I've had many break-ins for, you know, listings in certain areas, and I used to do it and I no longer do it, right? Or say you change your mind, I'm out $10,000. Like that $2.6 million house, that staging cost me $13,000. It was a big house with a lot of rooms, and you can't go skinny on a 2.6, you know? You gotta like go all out. And then I had high-end photography.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious about the negotiation around that. Did you put that money up front, the 13 grand?
The 13 grand for their staging? No.
They paid you reimbursed?
Yep. Yeah. Professional photography. This is one of the, he owns 3 really big restaurants in Seattle, a Korean restaurant. And Redfin had this listed, you guys, and they could not sell it. I came in, repositioned the whole house. The hard part was they were living there. The family was going through a separation. And so it was hard to get it staged and looking good the whole time when someone's living there. So what we did was like, okay, I need you guys to just sleep in this box, this like downstairs, this little room, the storage for a week while we launched this house. And I actually got a stager to go in willing to stage the house while they live there, because a lot of stagers don't want you to use their furniture while you're living there. I do so much business with this staging company that they're like, okay, Ty, just for you. So they made it work, and it turned out beautiful, and we sold it for over asking price in 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like, wow.
How long was it on market with Redfin?
It was on market with Redfin for 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And the hard part is they were living there and they were tired of it, right? They were so frustrated. Like they get a call, they got to run out. And they had dogs, they had 2 kids, right? And so every time they had a call, they had to run out, you know? And we nipped it in the bud. And what we do now, what I do is, okay, I was like, okay, if you're living in the house, what I need you to do is go stay at a hotel for 3 days. I want you to stay Friday, Saturday, Sunday for me. And I'm gonna have it vacant for 3 days, show any time. We're gonna do open house, we're gonna launch it. We're gonna get it under contract by Monday, by the time you get back. We just have to position it right. Yeah. And that's been such a game changer because they're there, you know, the agents in our team, our community does open house. And if they're running a little bit late, they're not like, why are they here time? You know, like, it's just like, you know, it just really eases up the tension around someone living there. I noticed that helped a lot. My dad actually built this house in West Seattle. I sold him the lot, and he built it for one of our investors, and I got to sell it in West Seattle for $1.3 million. And this is the first luxury home that my dad built. Super proud of him, and I got to be a part of it. And then we took this whole entire blueprint for free and built my brother a house. It's just manipulated a little bit, but yeah. So my brother has the exact same house. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. And he built it for my brother for really cheap. I think it was like $450. Yeah. And this is just showing them that we do aerial photos, the pre-inspection, things like that. Just like reiterating that a little bit, so they see that. We also offer 3D Matterport if it's in like, if the square footage and the angle and things like that is a higher end property, we throw this in the package for our client. So 3D walkthrough, those are important. Okay, social media. So I let them know that their property is going to be on social media, right? It creates a high level of views, right? And I go through some stats with them so they know the importance of it. 2.95 billion global active users. I just update this today for you guys. I was up to like 2 this morning. Okay. 243 million, you guys can read that. 93% market users are on our advertising on there. 2.3 billion monthly active users. So just telling them that, you know, a traditional agent will just put your house on the market on the MLS, and then all the websites pull out of that. But here we're taking it to another level because that's what you deserve. This is a next level listing, right? So we do social media ads on Facebook. So here is how I run my listings. What we have is we have a platform that allows us to boost the listing out onto Facebook and get you more views, right? So just talking about customer, and then Facebook allows it to be hyper local, right? Because anybody who says Renton or lives in Renton is registered, they're gonna see this house. And it's gonna attract more people to the open house, it's gonna attract more people to us. And if you ever have a commission question about like, hey, what about the commission? Say, what I'm doing, I'm gonna boost it. I'm gonna find buyers for you, and if the buyer comes without an agent onto our team, you get 1% off. Right? Instead of paying the whole amount, you pay 1% less and saving you that money. And then I let them know too that we post their listing on LinkedIn as well. So our social media team, I have a social media guy. When we have a listing, he posts it out onto all platforms. So here, if you can see, 4 out of 5 people on LinkedIn are drivers of a business decision. They're the W2, they're the people who have money to buy, right? 2x LinkedIn audience have 2 times the buying power. 500 million members on LinkedIn, I think that's more now. 73 million senior influencers, 45 million decision maker. Would you want your house on LinkedIn where there's 45 million decision makers? Yes or no? Yeah, right? And then, you know, higher end property. So pricing, this is kind of like the meat of, you know, meeting them, talking to them. So what I do is when I have my listing presentation, I always have a market valuation on the side. So if this is the book, right? I never put this. I just do the Northwest MLS because it's just easy, right? It's like live data, right? So I print out this, the map, so they know, right? So I talk about a micro and a macro, right? Do you ever talk about micro, macro to your client? Okay, so you're talking about micro, right? Micro means they're walking distance from each other, right? They share the same school, they share the same stores, they share everything, right? They are in a micro level. And then you're looking at a macro level to let them know that, okay, so in the micro level, there's no homes like yours. So if I'm priced out in the micro, I'm gonna go macro. Is that normal, right? Like you're coming out. So if your is priced right, they wouldn't have to go out. They're gonna buy yours. But if your house is not priced right, they're gonna go out. So we wanna look at our competition on the outside and the inside, right? So this just gives you an idea of what it looks like right now. But now that I've seen your house, we're gonna dig deeper into the micro level. Does that make sense? So I do that. How to tell them we really look at the active and the pendings right now. We really don't look at the solds anymore because the rates have changed quite a bit. So we talk a little bit about that. And then I do this sheet, which is the single family CMA. It breaks down the price, square footage, dollar per square feet average, days on the market. It goes through all of that, right? So we go through it very, very thorough. Julie teaches amazing class on price analysis. When she did that, I was just like, oh my God, I'm so lost. It's so good because she prices it differently on the upstairs, prices it differently on the downstairs, and then she brings it all together in a really statistical way, I guess. I'm learning quite a bit from Julie, to be honest. So I put that on the side, but usually when I get to that page, you guys, like when I get to the pricing strategy. So when I get to the pricing strategy, that's when this is where I stop, and then I pull this in, right? And then we talk about pricing. So that's where I go and I talk about pricing. And then we talk about, just like the sheet, right? We talk about 3 to 5 active, 3 to 5 properties that are pending, and then 3 or 5 properties have been sold. and then that's where we're gonna come up with their price. And so we go over pricing your home. There's 2 things you can't control, and there's 2 things that you can control your price. So that's half of the price, right? So you can't control your location, obviously, is where it's at. So we have to look at the micro level and the macro level of where you're living. And then the market condition, right? Those 2 things we can't control. If rates go up, we can't control that, right? If there's a low inventory, high inventory, we can't control those market conditions. These 2 make up half of your price. Now the other 2 we're gonna help you control. It is the condition and the price, right? If your condition is really great, then we can price it differently, right? But if you don't wanna fix your house, we're gonna knock off 25%, right? That's the other half. So we really have to sit down and decide what we're gonna do here together. And usually you won't hear me tell you what we're gonna list your house at to the penny until the day of listing. Because your neighbor could go on the market tomorrow and we go in the next day, right? So my strategy for me is I never tell them a final price. We always go through a kind of like a range, right? And I say, are you comfortable with this range? And they say yes, right? Okay, that's the range we're gonna play with. But the day before we go on the market, I'm gonna call you on a Tuesday and we're gonna talk about pricing by about 5 or 7 o'clock, right? Like around 5 or 7 o'clock is usually when I make that call to finalize the price, because I'm gonna wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to launch their property, right? I remember there's this guy, and I don't know if you remember him, Keith, tall, yeah,
Johnson.
Keith Johnson. Oh my God, I was so blessed. I shared the same office with him. He is a gem. He was like, Ty, you know what time I launch a listing? I was like, what time? He's like, midnight. I was like, you stay up till midnight to launch a listing? He's like, yeah, because it's fresh, on the market, right at midnight, right at 1 o'clock. You know, I was like, whoa, that's passion, right? That's commitment for your client. And I was like, you deserve that check. Like, you deserve every penny if you're waking up that early, you know? But mine is like about 4 o'clock. But kind of walking them through that pricing. Yes?
Why don't you look at the sold property instead of that? You look at the pending and, you know, like.
Yeah, we do look at the sold properties, but that's a lagging number. Solds are lagging numbers, right? Pending and active, those are those are the true comps. So if you see a property that went pending in 2 days, you know that they probably got multiple offers and they probably got full price, right? So we want to just be right next to them, right? Because chances are there's 2 other offers waiting for us, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so when you see like pending, do you actually call the listing agent?
I always call, and here's my secret. Another secret. So I called the agent. I was like, hey, Maria, can you tell me what that house went pending for? You know, just so I can get an idea. Our property's not going to be on the market for another, few weeks or so. Just want to get an idea while we're prepping the property. And I was like, here's a deal I'll make you. If you tell me how much it goes pending for, the next time you call me on my listing, I'll tell you what I went pending for. It's like a relationship, you know, like if any of you guys call me, right, I will help you navigate it. I will let you know that, hey, yeah, we got pretty close to the full price, or yes, we had multiple offers and we went above asking price by like 1%, 2% or things like that, right? It's all about the relationship, you know, and building trust. And that's why I build trust and relationship with every single agent I meet. Nobody is a competition, you know, we're all in this space together. And, you know, I might be good at something. Jacob is a master at new construction, you know, so if I had a new build coming up, I would partner with Jacob, because that gives me an opportunity to learn from him, and grow together. So yeah, I always call the agent. Yeah, and I always ask them, like, did you get more than multiple offers? If they say yes, then I already know that they went over asking, and then now there's a few other offers waiting, right? Buyers waiting, right? for our house to come on the market. Yeah.
Some sellers saying, you know, like my house worth like $1 million according to Zillow, Red Queen, what's your feedback on that one?
So I tell them like, so what I do is I bring like the comparables, right? And I lay it out with all the pictures. You have to see like, are your clients tech savvy? You know, if they're not, I print out all the interior pictures, right? And I show them, I say, do you think your house is worth more than this one? And just don't say anything. The problem is we say too much, right? If you were me, if you were the buyer and you were house shopping, would you pay more for this house or your house? You know, let them answer it. Yeah. Okay, so this is another cool tool that I've been using. So when I have a listing, I do a Tuesday market update for all of my sellers, a Tuesday update. And in order to do that, I do a radius search for homes that are near this house, right? And so every week I get a snapshot of what other homes are selling for, and I keep an eye on it for them, right? This is like super close to their house, right?
Why on a Tuesday?
Because Monday is when I gather data, right? Because Saturday and Sunday you're doing open house. Monday I do buyer calls, and I'm gathering data. And then Tuesday is when I report back to them. Gives me a day to like catch up and things like that. And it's like, if you don't hear from me on a Monday, that means you didn't get an offer. I will call you on a Tuesday, right? So that's really cool. And there's also a buyer match app where I'm able to boost out the open house to get leads. Like when I did the boost for you, I had like 4 buyers or 5 buyers come in my portal. I haven't even called them back yet. I don't know why I did that. But you can pull in matches to the house and then invite them to the open house, and create buyers for your client too, right? So I think that's a really cool tool. And then at the end, I just kind of go through homes that I recently sold in the past 12 months. My goal here, you guys, is to show them that I sell houses everywhere, right? If I think there's someone who wants an East Side agent only, or wants me to be like a West Seattle person only kind of thing, what I'll do is I'll switch the pictures, and like takes me 2 minutes, really. Like I'll plug and pull, and then I'll put like Seattle, you know, just like, you know, tell me something I don't know, you know? So it's just creating that super, like tailoring it to the client, right? So we end up not selling this one because, you know, they wanted too much. But at least Alicia got paid because she jumped in the lake and I gave her $100. So we did open house. Oh, and then this is a sample of the flyers, what they'll expect when we launch their home. This house sold in 24 hours, $12K over asking price, no inspection, no financing contingency, no nothing. I showed Suzette, I screenshot that the offer that came in. I was like, best offer I've ever seen. You know why? It took me 2 years to tee this house up. They wanted to move, and there was a lot of things that needed to be done, right? I managed this house for 2 years with them. From the tiles to the roof to the siding, like landscaping, everything, right? And the final month of launching, the contractor finished and we did a pre-inspection. And then we wrapped up everything else that was needed. Then we did the landscaping, right? We even did a sewer scope on this because they're like, Ty, we're moving out of the country and shit cannot go wrong. Because if I'm in a different country, I'm not flying back. This is like a done deal. And I was like, okay, we're gonna button this up. There's no way out. $35,000 earnest money released to my client. Over 12. So we got this done really fast for them. Open house. This is the lake that Alicia jumped in. By the way, we walked here, she jumped out here, and she made 100. I didn't make anything out of this. She's super funny, but you know, I love collaborating with other agents. You know, there's no barriers, I feel, in this space. I think that we're all in one space and we can help each other grow. This was one of our investors. He flipped this house and he was in it way too deep. So he ended up turning it into an Airbnb. So his goal is to Airbnb it for another 1.5 years, and then he'll have us listed again. But another great investor that we work with, and every single flip he gives it to us. I no longer have to do a listing presentation for him. But he knows this. I have my reviews. Every time I have a closing, I post a review. I have them write a review, and then once they do, then I send them a $25 Starbucks card just to thank them for the review. And then now I actually implemented a new form that I've created, and the new form is an all about you form, and it tells them what wine they like, what do like baseball, basketball, football, what are their kids' name, birthday. So when they're at the signing table at escrow, they're signing, right? So I tee up with the escrow company to have them fill it out. It's like, okay, Ty wanted me to have you fill this out while I get your paperwork ready. Is that okay? And so they're gonna sit there, fill that paper out, and then when they come back, they're gonna fill out the rest of the document, and in there as well, it's gonna ask if they had anybody that they could refer us. And so the escrow company scans it and then sends it to us. And then my goal is to have my TC upload that and punch that into my CRM. Because if you don't know me by now, I don't like to do very much. I like to delegate everything because it gets it done, right? You gotta pay to play. I always say you gotta pay to play. So I have that. And that's it. So I also wanted to share, this is also what I do, is I laminate the listing. So what I do is I laminate it front and back, and then on the sign, I'll staple this and this like this. So I'll never get a call that says time out of flyers. I hate those calls. I don't even have a flyer box on my listings anymore, right? And I don't put the price on my flyers. So I just stack them like this, and then they can always scan the security code and get my information. So I have that, and then I have these in the house as well. But it sold in 24 hours, so here I am with extra flyers. But I keep these too, because what I do is every time I have a listing appointment, I always replace my flyer sample to a house that is near theirs. Like, so if I had a listing appointment in Auburn, I'll replace that slide for an Auburn flyer. So I keep all of these in my Canva account. I have a folder that says listing flyers, and I have like hundreds of flyers in there of houses I've sold in the past. Even if it's a buyer side, I don't care, I'll just add it, you know? Just like, you sold it, right? So just add that in there. So it keeps you like super local. And then I also have these where it's like a client questionnaire. This really helps me a lot. It says, you know, do you need staging? How old is the roof? How many times an agent asks you how old the roof is, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have this, then you're able to answer all those questions and not have to ask them many times. The garage company, what days do they pick up garbage? It just shows that you're like a really thorough agent, right? And when another agent picks up the phone and questions me, I think they're really scared. Like, they're like, I'm not F with Ty. I'm just gonna give her a full price offer, you know? But when you're dialed down, right? Like smoke alarm, are they all working? Heating, cooling type, are they leased? Like how often do you ask that? Never, right? But sometimes they are leased through the city. A lot of properties in Seattle are leased through the city. you know, just everything you love about your house, your community, HOA dues, name, parking space, numbers, and then sell a questionnaire. Do you have to buy a house when you sell this one? Things like that. Where did you find me? Things like that. So I have all this, your mortgage balance on here. Who's your mortgage company? Because as I'm going, I'm asking, they just answer it versus like, you know, they're like, I don't know, right? So, but my goal is to have my TC turn this into a JOT form. Is that right? A JOT? Is that how you say it? JOT form? So like you send them the link and they just answer the question and just auto-populate, so you have to handwrite it. Kind of old school, but that's like my next piece I'm working on. So you're always adding stuff.
What are the coordinates on here?
The coordinates of the building that I was working in
Oh,
before.
okay, cool.
Yeah. I had that when I was at Compass,
Yeah.
and they have like the coordinates of the building. So that was the coordinates of where my house was.
For a second, I thought you customized the coordinates for every client, and I was like, oh wow.
Oh, you can, yeah.
Yeah,
can,
you could.
Yeah, it depends. Like if it's a very high-end luxury client, I spend a little bit more, like because they're very detail-oriented. Yeah, so it really depends on the client. That is it.
All right, how cool was that? I think now's a great time for some Q&A. If anybody has some follow-up questions, I know that everybody in here is probably on the spectrum of newer broker versus experienced, and so there's probably a lot of ways that you could be tweaking that. So does anybody have questions for Ty? That was awesome.
Thank
so
you.
many good nuggets.
Okay,
So good.
I'm glad. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
What's the name of the machine?
Oh gosh, I can send you guys the link. You can it's on Amazon. It's like a hole puncher. Yeah, it's like
Spiral bound.
yeah, spiral bound. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like $50. Yeah, fun.
So besides the listing presentation and the comps, what else do you bring?
That is about it. You know, I always have my market valuation on the side, and my secret is I have like 4 of them, because like once we're talking, I know which one to pull out. Yeah. So and they don't know that. Yeah.
Pre-inspections, I really like that you do that, but
Yeah.
what are some of the positives and the negatives?
Yeah, so you know our legal hotline, Annie, good old Annie. She has a video out that says that she would not advise you to do it because you're really opening a can of worms. Like it just opens layers of responsibilities. You know, I feel like if you're honest and you're giving the whole inspection out, you're disclosing everything. And it's their due diligence to decide after the fact, you know, and once they see it and they waive it, they waive it, so I don't see the liability if they check that box that they waived it. So I don't know. I've never had a problem with it.
I think she doesn't want us paying for it. I think that might be one of the things, like if you pay for it, so that's an excuse maybe to.
When I saw her, when she had a conference, and I went to it, she said she sold her personal property and she didn't do it. It was because she didn't want to open any can of worms for liability purposes. That's just, I don't know. Yeah, go.
Lawyer response. What is the average commission that you normally take from the seller?
I won't take anything under 2.5%.
Yeah.
Go.
What do you always pay for?
Nothing.
Photos and.
Yeah, photos.
No, for
Yeah.
your listing, what do you always pay for?
So I always pay for photos. Like all the marketing collateral. I also pay for a Facebook boost. So for every listing that I do $100 a week till it gets sold, to kind of push it out more. Yeah. Good.
How long is your listing presentation?
You're
there with the client, like an hour? Or?
I would say, so when I first walk in, I lay my stuff down, right? And I say, I'm gonna sit here, and I would love for you guys to sit here, like the husband and wife right here. Because when I'm talking to them, I want them right here. I don't want them to be across from each other. So it's a strategic way of sitting down with the seller, right? You sit here and they sit here. So when you're talking to them, your energy level is going this way,
Yeah.
right? And you're directing it. You're not doing, yeah? Oh, you agree?
Right.
You agree? And you know, like someone's not agreeing, they're not jiving. You can sit and see their hand gesture, their body language to each other, to you. Things like that. I read all of that when I sit down, right? Because I could tell if they're a team or the wife's more dominant or the husband's more dominant in the conversation. So I know how to navigate the sale with the main decision maker, right? So like my last house, Dave and his wife, she's kind of like the final decision maker and he's kind of like the front person to communicate to. And I communicate to him most of the time. And then we pull her in for the final. So you really have to like really read the personality and who you're working with. So we sit there and then I go through my questionnaire and we fill everything out. And then I go through the listing presentation and then I walk through their house. Sometimes if they're like so excited about their house, I'm like, I can't wait to show you all the things we've done to the house. I'll lay my stuff down, I'll grab my client sheet, and I'll start filling things out and asking them while we're walking the house. And I usually will get everything filled out, and then when we sit down, I do the listing presentation for them. By the time we sit down, fill out the, go through the listing presentation, I've already won the listing because I've filled out everything. Like they don't have to do this again with anybody, right? Like I've already did 60% of the listing with them, right? They don't want to do that 10 other times,
So most
right?
agents don't do this. I'm a newer agent, so like this just sounds like it should be normal.
I don't know, a lot of agents don't do it. I mean, who here has like a structured way of coming to a listing?
I'm crazy.
That's good, yeah. But you know, I've been in this industry for over 20 years now. There's nobody that teaches you how to do this. I had to figure it out. Like I'm giving you guys like a cheat here, like a little, like what I've tried to figure out for the past 20 years, and I think a lot of times brokerage managing broker companies, they're managing broker, they're not in the field, they are not selling homes, so they really can't help you walk the streets. They can give you guidance, but they really are not walking with you, alongside of you. And so I think that what makes, like Julie and I, like our group a little bit unique is because we are all playing in the same field, right? Yeah. Yeah, Izzy?
I got a couple questions for you.
Okay.
How do you handle challenging or difficult sellers during the listing process?
I asked them, I said, okay, if you were me, what would you do in this situation? Right? I let them handle it. I don't have to be the solution for everything. And are you okay with that if that doesn't turn out? If you want to list your house $50,000 above asking price and we're on the market for 2 or 3 months, are you okay with that? So, cause then in 3 months it didn't sell, they're not gonna call you and say, why isn't my house selling? Well, you said you were okay with that, right?
As another tip, if you're having trouble with a client that's kind of pressing you on price, this is what I say. I say, well, okay, I understand what, I want to know where you're getting that price. First of all, we teach a whole class on how to become a ninja on differentiating. If somebody says, oh, my neighbor's house sold for that, we teach a separate class, which we're not going to talk to today, about how to teach them the value of their house compared to their neighbor's house. And it's as simple as this. It has to do, I'm a nerd, as Ty is telling you guys, it's about the living space per floor, right? So if your neighbor's house, if you had two 2,000 square foot houses, right? And one has 1,300 square feet on the main floor and 700 in the basement, and one has 1,000 on the main and 1,000 on the basement. Well, that 2,000 square foot house is in the same street, same neighborhood, same condition. We teach a different class about which, common sense, what I just told you, which one's gonna be worth more between those two houses, or are they worth the same?
The one with 1,300 just because
Right, because main floor space is worth more than basement space, right? Main floor space is always gonna be more valuable than any other space in the house, right? So separate training, separate day, ninja stuff that we teach in our group is literally, it can be as simple as teaching them how their floor plan is different than their neighbor's house, right? I won't go into it today, but there's one tip.
She's awesome.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. The other tip that I do when sellers are giving me a hard time about price, I say, okay, well, you know, right now the market's clicking along pretty good, right? And so what we're gonna do is we can agree, if you know, it's your house, you know, you get to make the decision, but let's agree ahead of time on when you'd be willing to drop that price. Let's just make sure that we're not gonna have to arm wrestle it about later, and that we're both on the same page. They say that, and then say, in addition, this is what we're gonna do. Every single house that comes on the market in our playing field, in our zone, our natural boundaries of our comping, we're gonna go look at. Why? Because, and we're gonna go together, or you're gonna go to the open house. Why? Because once it goes pending, we won't be able to get back in, right? And so I want you to see firsthand, if that house takes an offer before yours, why? Right? Looking online at the photos does not work. And what happens when it happens to me, they will go look, and if something goes pending before we do, I've had sellers call me and tell me, drop the price. Or if they say they won't go, and I said, well, I told you, we needed to go look at all the houses, right? It works like a charm. I mean, you don't even almost have to drop the price. They'll tell you, because you told them that is the way we're gonna handle it. We have to know what those other houses look like that are the comparable to yours. We can go together, you can go on your own, but that's how we're gonna determine how to make adjustments on your price. And since we're in a democracy, and it's really your decision, you need to go to those houses. And it literally works like a charm. I don't know what, it just does. And they'll say, okay, I was over there, you know, and I'll find out what it's pending at, and they'll say, we should probably drop it at 25. I did that with Buddy Buck, another guy in our community, and his seller, I told him to do that, seller called him up and said, we need to drop it 75 grand.
Yeah.
Without him even having to do anything.
Yeah.
Right? So it's these, we're like a ninja group of subtle tactics, as I like to call it, so.
Awesome. You had another question?
You come and hang out with us.
I have two more for you. What are some key negotiation tactics you use to secure favorable terms for your clients?
You know, it all really varies depending on how many offers I have on the table, if we're getting a lot. It really depends on the situation. I think that if, say, you're on the market for like a month, right, and you have no offers, you know, you just have to decide, like, are your clients having to sell right away, or they have some time and they have some room in that negotiation. And I usually, depending on the client, right? Some of my clients are like, I really need that number, and I'm very honest with the other agent. Like, honestly, if they can't get this number, I'm probably gonna take it off and have them rent it out for a year and come back. But if you really love it, this is the price it needs to be, or else we don't have a deal. I'm just being honest. Like, I'm not trying to get you to pay more, but that's where my seller, that's their position. And I think just being honest, you know, and working together and not playing that, oh, why don't you give me your highest and best? I hate that.
Yeah.
You know, I hate it when people say that, right? I always say, you know, yeah, just be honest, like, okay, right now, if you go above asking, you know, by a certain percentage, then you're in the game, right? You're not wasting people's time. I've called listing agents like, just send highest and best. I'm like, okay, whatever. Next time I have a listing, I'll say the same thing. Yeah. Oh, one more.
Yeah. Are there any industry resources, books, or training programs that you recommend for further improving listing sales?
Just go to listing appointments with me.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
How many days in average that you need to prepare to be ready on the market?
About, I would say 4 days.
4 days?
Mm-hmm. I can wrap up a house in 4 days because I have a whole team, right? So, like, I have a listing coming up in Beacon Hill, and so the contractor is going to be done on the 27th. The contractor is going to be done on the 27th. I have the stagers coming in on the 28th, in the morning. The photographer is going on the 28th by 3 p.m. I'm gonna get the pictures back that morning and I'm gonna go live. And then my team is gonna work with the sellers to fill out all the documents in the meantime, while that's all being arranged. And then we're gonna go live. So that 3 day, cause he was like, he has an investment deal with this investor, and the investor said, I'm gonna fund it, but you have June 1 to list this property. If you can list it by June 1, I'll give you a 37% split when we close. But if you don't list it by the 37th, you're gonna get a 25% split on the deal. Because what happened is the investor is tying up his money on this investment deal, right? So the sooner he can get this property on the market, the sooner we can close. So he gave him a deadline, and it was like, Ty, that's my deadline. And I was like, okay, we're gonna tee everything up 3 days from the day the contract finished, right? I'm gonna have my cleaners like ready to go at the same time, and we're just gonna boom, 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 and then get it listed. Yeah.
How and where do you usually get your sellers?
My sellers?
Your listings.
Before I could do a whole class on listing, leads, listing, and leverage, right? I learned that from my KW days. But back then, I had 3 strategies that helped me get listings, to help me pull in the leads. And with the leads, I created listings, and then the listing allows leverage for more deals to come in. So there's, you know, in business, there's like a whole list of ways to generate leads, and I can go through.
So you just pay for leads?
No, there's different ways, right? I mean, there's like open house, door knocking, there's farming, there's every door direct, there's cold calling, calling expires, calling old cancels, rentals, door.
You did all that?
Yeah.
Door knocking too?
Yes, I still do today, ask Izzy.
That's
We are actually having, in 2 weeks from today, we're having another Wednesday workshop for our community. You guys are welcome to come.
Jacob's teaching that, right?
Jacob's teaching
Oh,
it, yeah.
You don't wanna miss that
It's
one.
all about, what's the title of it?
Open house
Mastery.
Open house mastery. So if you're new, or not, or
Oh,
if you're experienced, I mean.
I learned from him.
Open
so.
houses are the
He's
way to
good.
get great business without, having to spend money. And you can even partner with somebody. You can do it together and split, you know, the buyers going forward, but
Yeah.
that's in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you'll get buyers and sellers.
Oh,
Yeah.
If you're doing it right, you'll get both.
And you guys wanted a book, a good negotiation book. There's a book called Never Split the Difference.
Oh, yes, that's good, yeah. That's a good one, yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good one, yeah.
Christopher Voss.
Okay, we had one more question back, oh, yeah, go ahead. Did someone have a question? Okay, you had a question.
Yeah, do you deal with listings where the seller actually lives in the house and they have their belongings everywhere, the furniture everywhere?
Yep.
So how do you stage this out? Would you have to move everything out and then?
So I come with boxes, like I come to the house with boxes. I was like, here's 10 boxes, fill it all up. And then my contractor, if you don't wanna move, my contractor will store it for you.
You wanna know a little trick along, same thing. I go to all my listing appointments with a blue roll of painter's tape. And I basically do what Ty said, but I said, here's a gift. I always come with a gift, here's your gift.
Yours
And-
is cheaper than boxes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, true,
I give 'em
true.
and I say, all I need you to do is put a piece of tape on what you wanna keep, and I got it from there. And I give them the blue painter's tape.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't wanna come back, like, I don't wanna come back and help them sort that out. Like, box it,
Yeah.
we're selling it. Like, if you haven't touched it, this is what I say, if you haven't touched something for 2 years, it needs to go. You know, separation anxiety, but it needs to go. 2 years, that's the max. If you didn't use that blender in 2 years, and you say you're gonna make a fresh smoothie, you're never gonna make it, so let it go. Give it to somebody else that's gonna actually use it, right, Francis?
So this is more of a comment, but some of the feedback that some agents give me is that sellers are hesitant to leave their house because they have such a good mortgage rate on their current house.
Right.
And so I always try to tell them like, hey, we have the 2-1 buy down program. They can buy it down later on. Have you experienced that with some sellers? Hesitant of leaving?
You know, all my sellers now are selling their home and they're leaving the state. 2, they're selling because they're downsizing, so they're buying something cheaper. And then the younger generation that are renting and are buying right now. And they don't really care about the rates right now because they know that they can refinance. So I haven't really bumped into sellers who are like, you know, my rates are so good, I don't want to leave, because generally they're not going to call me, you know? So I have more of those people who are like, Ty, it's time for me to pull some equity and buy a rental. And so I have those people right now that are taking the HELOC and buying investment because they want to keep their low rate. So
when anybody ever says something like that, we love the ninja tips here. When anybody ever says something like that to me, because I do get the people that say, I don't know, my rate's so low, I don't think I should move. I go, you shouldn't. You just agree with them. I mean, it shocks them. It really drops.
You're not here to sell,
it's like
right? You're here to be their
psychology,
advisor,
right?
Right?
Oh, I don't know, we might, you know, this is rental property and, you know, we don't know if we should keep it or hire a management company. And I said, you should keep it. Why would you ever sell a property if you didn't need to? It's gold. Keep it. I know I'm shooting myself in the foot by saying so, but yeah, you shouldn't sell it.
You're being
And what
an
happens
advisor.
then is that they're like, oh, I know, but my wife wants to. And then they barf all the reasons why they want to sell,
Yeah.
right? And if you just never disagree with anybody or whatever, or don't be anxious to get it. Just be like, yeah, you shouldn't sell it. It's a piece of property in Seattle. I would agree with you. Like, let's talk about a property manager. You need a property manager? Go that direction.
And
You
they're gonna
shouldn't
want to
sell it.
call you next time
Right.
because you didn't try to sell them something, you know, you're just like
Right.
their friend.
Or let's
That's what
refinance
people
your house,
Yeah.
you know, and put a tenant in here and you can go buy buy that next house,
Yeah.
right? To Ty's point, like that's what she does, right?
The ultimate rapport builder is to unsell somebody.
Yes. Yep. Give them what they didn't expect. Yeah.
They call it disruption.
Yeah.
It's a disruptor.
Anybody else? John.
Okay, so you've set the listing appointment. Do you give them any stuff ahead of time?
Nope. I just call them the day before. Just let them know I'm so excited to come over. I'll see them, you know, at 4 or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. It's just because I don't want to send them anything to distract their mindset or like an information that could, you know, for them just like, okay, what does that mean? You know, and have them have all those questions or, you know, sometimes they may change their mind on something, you know, so any kind of information that you're not there in person to explain is really hard to build that relationship. So I know that a lot of people do have pre-listing packages that they mail out, but I've never done that. Yeah.
After your presentation, do you just slide over the listing agreement?
Some of them, if I don't know them well, like.
Of course she does.
No, some of them ask me to sign it.
Right
like,
there in the.
Yeah, and I always have it in my bag. Like that little folder, the 1A is always in there.
Perfect. And then for some, like that 2.6 listing, how often are you following up? After they say, hey, you know, I've interviewed a couple of people, let me think about it.
Right. I think depends on the person, and this guy was like a senior level and he was super busy, and I had to communicate only through his wife. Like I could not reach him. I didn't even have his phone number because he was so busy. He was managing, you know, hundreds of people in China, right? And so I only had access to her, and she was really busy. So I didn't want to come across as that hungry agent, bother them, you know. But if I didn't bump into her that day, I would have called her. And I gave her a full week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I gave her a full 7 days to kind of, you know. But I did text her just like, hey, I'm gonna follow up and call you on Thursday. Is that okay? Right? To prep her versus like call, she didn't pick up. Then I text her. Then 3 days later, I call her again, like a cold caller. I didn't want to come across that way. I text her and say, hey Z, can I call you on Thursday evening, or is that a good time? Because when I go to a listing appointment, I always ask them what's the best time to reach them. Yeah. Yeah. Just stuff that you learn over time, you know? Yeah. I think that's it. Okay, let me take a selfie of all of us real quick. Where's my